Are starting things off in the kitchen as per usual here on The Good Stuff, and I'm going to show you how to make an apple strudel. I'm very excited about it. Now, I don't know if you know it, like this doesn't sound particularly hacky, but there's little kind of tips and tricks throughout. The first hack I'm going to tease you with a little bit first, because I'm actually going to go over to the fridge right now, and I'm going to get out ice cream. And yes, I said fridge, not freezer. That little tip is gonna come in a minute. So I'm just gonna pop this on the counter. We're gonna come back to this in a minute. Are you tantalized? Are you excited? This is what thrills me, I'm not gonna lie. I'm very excited about that. All right, so we're gonna make a beautiful apple strudel. Apple strudel is super great. It's basically like a rolled, flaky, crispy apple pie that's kind of in a log. You slice it, good amount of apple, good amount of crisp, totally delicious. So the first thing we need to start with is the pastry. My first hack, just buy phyllo pastry. Please never make it. I am never gonna ask you to make something that I myself do not wanna make, and I do not wanna make phyllo pastry. Now, if you've never heard of phyllo, it's kind of the pastry that's wrapped around spanakopita, really, really thin and crispy. The first thing you wanna make sure you do when you buy it, get it in the freezer section, thaw it in the fridge overnight, and then once it's unwrapped, keep a damp towel over top of it. This stuff dries out really quickly because it is paper thin. Can you see me kind of through there? A little bit? You can see my outfit through it, and we're good to go. This stuff is super thin and flaky. Now, it does like to tear, as is happening right now, but honestly, that's just gonna lead to more flakes, so don't worry about it. All right, I am going to layer this down. Now, the trick with phyllo is you do need to add some fat, and you do actually build those layers just by stacking. So I've got about a 1/4 cup of butter here that is melted, and I'm just gonna brush a little bit over this little piece of phyllo dough. Now, I'm just gonna kind of dot it around. Again, if it tears, it's not the end of the world. It's gonna taste just the same, and you're gonna get more of those little crispy cracks. So just kind of dot it all over, looking beautiful. Then I'm gonna get another layer, and just start kind of layering these up. You want about, I'd say, 4 or 5 sheets of this phyllo. Now, this is really big sheets. I really, really like this brand. It's fantastic. If you get a brand that's a little smaller, what I would do is kind of set them off kilter, because you're looking for a big rectangle. You don't want it to be a square. You want it to be a little bigger than a foot kind of wide, and then 16 to 18 inches the other way. Again, just let that butter all over there. If you're fancy and have one of those like oil spritzers, you could do it with that easily. That would be fantastic. Oh my gosh, layering phyllo always takes longer than I think when I'm talking in front of lovely people in an audience. So Mary, just keep going. Okay, we're gonna do one more. And then I'm just gonna do one more sheet right after this. Again, as you see, I'm not being precious, I'm not being perfect. I'm just kind of dabbing everything around. Then that final sheet of phyllo right on top, looking absolutely beautiful. Now, if you want, you could butter this sheet, but I'm gonna leave it plain because that's where my apple filling is gonna go. I'm gonna twist it this way though, because I'm gonna roll it that way when we get to it. But now we're gonna chat about the apple filling. So I have got 3 apples here that I have peeled, cored, and thinly sliced. I want it nice and thin, because that's the thing I love about an apple strudel, is it's got those thin little bits of apple. They almost get sort of apple saucy, but still keep their crunch. That's because I'm using a firm and kind of crisp tart apple. We're not going with a sweet one. We're going with something like a Granny Smith, like a Braeburn. Leave the Macintosh for things like sauce. You want a little bit of crisp to it. So I'm just gonna add that on into a bowl. And into there, to get the flavors going and get a little bit of texture, I'm going in with some nuts. I'm going with walnuts. If you wanted, you could do pecans, you could do almonds. But you want about a 1/4 cup of chopped up nuts. So those are going right on in as well. You could also leave the nuts out if you're someone who doesn't do those, feel free. Now, I am also gonna add raisins. And my next hack is how to make sure raisins don't turn into grapes again when you bake them, because that's my main bone to pick with a raisin. I hate when you're eating it and you're like, you made your bed. Don't try to plump up again. Cut this out. That's my bone to pick with raisins. But if you chop them up, they don't plump up as much. They still get juicy and delicious, but they don't turn into little grapes. So I want about a 1/4 cup of raisins. I'm using yellow or golden raisins because I like their flavor. They're a little tartar. If you just had regular old sultanas or something like that, feel free to use those. Just give them a little bit of a chop. Now, when you chop a raisin, again, it doesn't plump up as much. It's kind of similar to when you buy like a dried cranberry. Those are halved, so they don't get as juicy. If you want a really juicy raisin, feel free to leave them whole. I won't eat that strudel, but that's okay, more for you. All right, in you go with those beautiful raisins. Just flick them right off, being careful of that edge. Looking beautiful. Okay, perfect. Now, to flavor this up, we're gonna go in with some sugar. I'm gonna start with a half a cup of white sugar. I love white sugar, it adds a little bit of crisp, adds not a ton of flavor, but it's really, really good in here. Also helps with pectin production in those apples. So pectin is a natural occurring like thickener that lives in apples, and when you cook it down with sugar, it helps bring it out and make it kind of jelly-y and thicker. Now, I'm also going in with a quarter cup of brown sugar. If you don't have brown sugar, you don't have to, but I love that molassesy flavor that you get. Really, really tasty. In you go. If you don't have brown sugar, you can also just do a mixture of white sugar and a little bit of molasses. That's how you get brown sugar in a pinch. Now for additional flavoring, I'm going in with about a teaspoon of cinnamon. If you wanted, you could do clove, you could do pumpkin spice if you're getting a little wild, but we're keeping it pretty basic today. In you go. Little bit of salt just to counteract all of that sweetness. And then this is my final ingredient that seems a little odd, but again, helps to kind of firm up that apple filling as it bakes. I'm going in with a quarter cup of breadcrumbs. Sounds strange. Plain breadcrumbs, the ones you get in that little tub in the bakery section, not panko, leave those out. Not the seasoned ones, they have oregano in it, we don't want that. Just a quarter cup of those fine breadcrumbs just helps kind of like bring everything together. They absorb the extra moisture, so this doesn't get sloppy. It stays nice and kind of tight, but still delicious and kind of jammy. So I'm just gonna give that a toss together. And then to cut through all of the sweetness in this mix, I'm also gonna add in a little bit of lemon zest and lemon juice. I've got a lemon here, I'm gonna go in with about half of the zest and half of the juice. If you don't wanna do this, you don't need to, but I love that little bit of acidity in there, it brightens things up. You could also do this with orange juice and orange zest, that would be really, really nice. Probably not lime, but you know what, if you feel like it, go for it. Gonna just add that juice in now. Perfect. Ooh, a lemon with no seeds. Feels like you win the kitchen lottery, I'm not gonna lie. All right, pop that on in. Now I'm just gonna give this a final toss, and then we're gonna roll up this strudel. Now, as opposed to making something like a pie where you've gotta flute the edges and do all that stuff, this is super simple to put together. So I'm starting with the short side towards me of this phyllo dough, and I'm just gonna transfer on all of that apple mixture. Now, if it goes a little kind of haywire, that's totally cool. Just kind of use your hands to just organize it in a little bit of a row. All right, looking good. Now I'm gonna use the parchment paper to help me roll. So you're gonna lift it and just roll it over, and then keep rolling it over. Whoa, this is looking good. That's a big strudel. And then finally, you wanna end it seam side down. If any apples sneak out, just shove them right back in. No one's gonna be able to tell. You're not making this on TV, right? No one's gonna see, it's fine. Then finally, what we're gonna do is use a bit more of that butter just to brush on the top to give you a golden brown crisp. It's gonna give you that beautiful crunch on the outside. You do wanna leave a little bit of room for steam to escape, so just grab your knife and cut a couple slits right in the top of that phyllo. That's gonna give a little kind of speed holes for all of that steam to escape. Now that needs to go into a 350-degree oven for about 45 minutes, just until it is baked golden brown and those apples are nice and juicy and tender. Once that is done, you wanna set this aside for at least 20 to 30 minutes. That's gonna give that pectin an opportunity to just firm up, so all those apples don't just spill out. Look at this crispy, crunchy little guy though. Very excited about that. Now, get your largest spatula. If you're like a chopped cheesesteak maker, you've got one handy. If not, you can maybe use two. We're just gonna wiggle it under, get under there, attempt to quickly and confidently pop it onto a serving board. Beautiful. And then this is the best part of a strudel. You get a serrated knife and listen to the crisp. That's what you're looking for. Now I am going to pop that strudel onto a plate, looking beautiful. And now we're going to return. Do you remember that ice cream that I put out on the counter? So my tip, anytime you are looking for a fancy little dessert, buy your ice cream and then forget about your ice cream. Put it on the counter, stick it in the fridge overnight to melt. Because melted, good quality ice cream is essentially just creme anglaise. Creme anglaise is a delicious custard. It's super tasty. This one's almost fully melted. So as opposed to making a sauce myself, just pour a little right on the side. And you've got a little dunk right for your, honestly, it looks fancier. And then finally, to really fancy this up, I love using a tea ball for my cinnamon or my icing sugar. Put a little bit of cinnamon in there and then watch the magic happen. Like so cute. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about this. Hey, Mary here. What did you think? Drop your comments below and don't forget to like and subscribe for more of the good stuff.